This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com. So Slaughter wins the WWF title from the Anabolic Warrior in 12 minutes and 45 seconds. That's directly from the Observer.
Yeah, fuck him and those goddamn references. Has he ever looked in his little midget mirror that makes him get all puffed up and shit? Does he have one of those magical mirrors? Like, he's got to see something else in the mirror when he looks at it.
Yippee! Warrior comes out wearing...
Okay, why is it okay for this little shit...
Oh God!
Fucking put nicknames and shit on other people. Oh, but don't fucking disparage fucking Dynaball Dave.
Are you really? What are you doing right now?
What? I'm doing the same thing that the reporter, that the journalist.
Don't do that.
Huh?
No, can we just talk about the show? Why are you hot about what somebody wrote 30 years ago?
Something that I find very offensive. When he puts names and well,
Jesus Christ, are we going to fucking debate whether or not Warrior was on steroids? Of course he was.
I don't know that.
Oh my God. This is the same guy who allegedly left needles behind in a hotel room and caused a huge issue for you guys. Not too terribly long from this point, by the way. And fucking look at him. Anyway. Meltzer's report is, yippee! Warrior comes out wearing red, white, and blue. Thankfully, the WWF doesn't condone Sgt Slaughter, or he didn't bring General Adnan out with him, and they didn't have the Iraqi flag to infuriate an already riled mob. Oh, they did? The first 2 minutes were great, with Sarge trying to relive 1981, taking one great bump after another. Well, at this point, poor Sarge is blown up, and Warrior, who basically stood still the whole time, Sarge was taking all these awesome bumps, wasn't in any better shape. Well, out comes Sherry to save the day. Sherry trips Warrior, who jumps out of the ring and chases her down the aisle. Randy Savage is hiding behind some TV equipment and jumps out and gives Warrior a clothesline and hits him with a TV light stand. Slaughter kept breaking up the count while Warrior laid and crawled around for about 3 minutes to get back in the ring. After 2 minutes of not so hot action, they went to a 2-minute bear hug. Then a camel clutch with Warrior in the ropes. Slaughter got up like he'd won, but then Warrior starts the comeback. Sherry comes back out again and gets in the ring. Warrior press slams Sherry and heaves her over the top rope into the awaiting arms of Savage. Then Sherry deserves to make more money than just about anyone in the company, except for the guy like Hogan who puts people in the seats. Anyway, behind the ref's back, Savage hits Warrior with the Scepter, which splattered everywhere. And Slaughter pinned him to win the title. As a wrestling match, there was nothing to this after the first 2 minutes, but give the WWF credit enough to know that these guys could only go 2 minutes without outside help. So they sent out the best outside help in the world. And really, this thing was very entertaining because of those not involved in the match itself. 3.5 stars. So he's critical of Sarge and critical of Slaughter, but loved what Savage and Sherry did. And that's hard to argue.
I mean, he's critical of Sarge and critical of Slaughter?
Okay. Of Warrior, you motherfucker.
Well,
the splatter, as he describes it with the Scepter, allegedly, when this thing explodes, there's legitimately little pieces of glass and shit in Warrior's head. He's legitimately bleeding through his hair. Savage swung for the fucking fences here, did he not?
Yes, he did. Here we go. Yeah. All right, back in baseball days. Here we go. Swing that better. Yeah, fuck you. Yeah, I'm gonna make sure that my shit looks good. Yeah, fuck your head. Read my boots, bitch. First name Macho, last name King. Yeah.
Listen, I love Macho King in this era.
You can call me Mr. King.
I love Mr. King. I love Mr. Warrior. I'm peak fandom here. I'm 9 years old. This is my shit, man. But I don't know that I would have called Sgt Slaughter winning. In hindsight, I guess I should have. I just assumed, hey, we're going to do Hogan Warrior at WrestleMania 7. especially since some of the posters and whatnot had both of their logos on there. I just kind of felt like that's where we were going. But you go with Slaughter. In those 48 hours leading up to the event, once things really turn up in a major way, nobody considers calling an audible. I mean, I realize we're still going to have the match, but if Warrior beats him here, then maybe this thing's stamped out, and then we got to figure out something for WrestleMania. Was that just totally out of the question?
No, it wasn't totally out of the question. It just didn't happen. And I believe, goddamn, it was, so the show started at 7. It was at about 8:30 that like all hell broke loose over there. And then Bush came out. We have declared war. Because those words hadn't been spoken until that night. It was like, we have declared war. We've had presence there. We've done this, but now we're declaring war. And I was like, motherfucker. It was right before the Rumble. I remember going, son of a bitch, could you have not just waited? Couldn't you wait until the pay-per-view's over? Because I know that George was probably watching the pay-per-view. It's just, like old Saddam, they were probably watching the pay-per-view. Just couldn't you have waited? I don't think that's asking a whole lot. But they didn't. And so then it was like, holy shit. What, I mean, we're in it. Go for it.
It's unbelievable that this is still the direction that we're heading. We've talked about this a lot on our WrestleMania 7 episode and, well, a bunch of other episodes. So maybe there's only so much to touch on here, and you even said at the top of the show, in hindsight, you wouldn't have done it. You also kicked around once upon a time that the idea was going to be to have Tugboat turn and have Tugboat feud with Hogan. And you sort of freestyled and maybe a little tongue in cheek. Chic Tugboat.
No, it wasn't tongue in cheek. He was going to be an Iraqi sympathizer and wear the whole thing on his head and everything. In
hindsight, what could you have done here? If you decided, okay, this is in poor taste, bad timing, we got to scratch it. So we're going to call an audible. Warrior's going to go over. We're going to kill this Iraqi sympathizer shit. But now the next day, we gotta have a real plan for what we're doing for Mania. What do you think it would have wound up being?
I mean, I guess you could have done Warrior Savage still.
Yeah.
But you still need something for the Hulkster.
Yeah.
And at that time, we were still going in a stadium.
Yeah.
So, it was.
So maybe you would have turned Tugboat. Maybe not as a Sheik, but you could have did Tugboat Hogan.
Nobody would have given a fuck. I love me some Fred, but nobody would have given a fuck at that point.
Well, let's talk about something kind of silly and just tie it together. You remember when we talked about when Warrior came back in 96 and he had the little moment on Raw where Jerry Lawler's going to hit him over the head with a framed picture, but he's going to have glass out, not glass on the head. But Warrior, for the first time ever, still said, I need to wear a hat and I'm going to put some padding in there. This is because of this Savage Scepter shot, is it not? This is like a fool me once. Right?
I guess. I just think it was, anyway. It's like getting hit in the head.
I can tell you're ready to move on. And let's talk about number 4. Meltzer says, instead of risking a riot to have an intermission, they did the next best thing, sending a basic unknown, the Mountie, out with Coco Beware. It really wasn't bad at all, but nobody cared, nor could any two wrestlers get any heat at that point in time. Rougeau won in 9 minutes and 5 seconds. Both tried. Rougeau did some nice tie-up moves at first glance. The gimmick looks pretty lame, though. Star and 3/4. This is before the Mountie has his own theme song, which really probably brings the gimmick up a level or two. What do you remember about this match? And more importantly, the reaction from the crowd for the Mountie?
Oh God, the crowd did not give a fuck. They were still hot buzzing about Warrior. And I don't know that anyone thought in a million years that Warrior was going to drop the championship that night.
No.
So you're looking at it. The audience is still in somewhat of a stunned state. So why not bring out a Mountie and a Birdman?
I'm glad you said what you said about nobody being able to call the Warrior, because this feels like, and I'm sure you're going to shit on it, but this feels like one of the first times that there is maybe a discussion in the back about the creative and what way should we go. And the statement is, they'll never see it coming. Sort of one of the original of this era swerves, if you will, because a lot of times what was going to happen was fairly predictable, but given what was happening on TV and how over the Warrior was and how Savage was maybe a little past his prime. Yeah. Nobody really would have called this, but a lot of times when people say, oh, they won't see it coming, they won't be able to call it. If a decision is made for that reason, a lot of times it winds up just not being the best. Do you think this is one of those instances where it was a swerve for the sake of a swerve and going a different direction?
No. Because it was continuing the story between Randy and Warrior for WrestleMania.
That's true.
And getting the title off of Warrior, so that Hulk and company could go on to WrestleMania. The story was Randy and Warrior. So it was an opportunity for them to continue that story and make it even hotter and make it about the championship.
Let's talk a little bit about something else that's reported in the Observer. He did report that there were people in the office. Well, here we go. Just a few days before the match, reality got in the way. There was now a legitimate U.S. bloodshed in the Persian Gulf. Nearly everyone involved with pro wrestling, both in and out of the WWF, believed the current world situation would cause McMahon to pack this angle in, while exploiting not so vague racial and xenophobic stereotypes as well within wrestling's normal bounds of poor taste. Exploiting a legitimate war seemed to cross over the invisible line. Many within the WWF front office feared a media backlash against such an obvious attempt to heavily exploit the war. A few heavy hitters in the front office were privately considering quitting the company because McMahon refused to change his WrestleMania plans. There were inter-office arguments, even to the last minute, trying to convince McMahon to allow Warrior to win or at least change the Slaughter character. Do you remember any of that?
Sure. Yeah. I think that there were a lot of people that were very uncomfortable with it.
Can you say some names here, like on one side or the other? Like, where was Pat?
No, I really don't remember specific names at all. I guess really the only name specifically that I do remember was John Filippelli, who was very against it and didn't like it. But for the most part, it was discussed ad nauseum amongst a lot of people. Some people thought it's wrestling. It's going to be what it is. And, we'll do what we do.
I want to mention here, Sgt Slaughter, he's only 42 years old, but he's written about as, hey, this is the end of my wrestling career. Did you see it that way at just 42 years old? Because of course everybody's waiting for me to say this. AJ Styles today is 43 years old.
I did not. I thought Sarge was losing weight, getting in shape, and thought he had a few more runs in him, frankly.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.